Kaya, Bonji. I join you from Whadjuk Noongar country, and we have entered into the season of Kangabarang. I would like to acknowledge the traditional custodians of the land and lands all around and country all around Australia, and pay respects to elders past and present, and extend that to any First Nations people in the audience. So in Kambarang, the heat is transforming the landscape, infusing energy and activity into the wildlife. So may today's webinar help you energize and transform your deafblind practice. Welcome to our today's webinar, Hand Under Hand. For an overview of the webinar, we'll look at what is exactly Hand Under Hand, the benefits of using this method, what situations you can use it in. I'll give you some photographic and video examples of Hand Under Hand being used. I'll provide you some other sources of information on Hand Under Hand, and then that will be followed by a question and answer session with the audience. So what is Hand Under Hand? Right, in the simplest way, I think the simplest way to describe it is a blind or deafblind equivalent of watching someone do something and learning by touch and through feeling movement. So instead of watching with your eyes and participating with your eyes, you're doing that with your hands, and you're being guided to do that by somebody else's hands who knows the landscape, who knows the task. So the deafblind person's hands sit on top of their partner's hands, but it's not always necessarily the person with deafblindness who's being led through a hand-under-hand interaction. The deafblind person themselves can lead. So an alternative way of saying that is the person receiving the message or following has their hands on top, and the person sending the message or leading has their hands underneath. So the hands go under and go about the task in the usual way. The deafblind person's hands follow along, guided by their sense of touch. This will become clearer as we look at the examples. So why would we use a hand-under-hand approach? It's far less intrusive than the person guiding's hand being on top, and it's less controlling. And it also makes the situation less likely for the person guiding to try and take control. If their hands are underneath, then they're always offering and always inviting and keeping the interaction that way. So it makes the interaction less at risk of, or that person less likely to hold or manipulate the deafblind person's hands. It gives choice to the deafblind person about if, when, and how to follow. And it provides a roadmap for independent exploration or completion of a task. It promotes active learning because following someone's hands is a conscious and active choice. So more about an active engagement by choice. So this is believed to reduce or prevent the development of passiveness and learned helplessness. So passiveness being, I don't do a lot, I don't initiate a lot myself, and I let whatever happens around me just happen to me, but I'm not that engaged, and I'm not engaged with it, and I don't do much to affect things around me. And learned helplessness, I guess, is a result of passiveness, getting to the point where you believe you have no influence or effect on people and things around you. So you do very little to try and attempt to change or do anything. So someone with learned helplessness is not an active explorer. They just let the world happen to them. And now you see that I've also got there a form, it prevents a form of tactile defensiveness. And I say a form of tactile defensiveness because I am of the belief that sometimes tactile defensiveness is overdiagnosed in a deafblind population. What you're observing is not a neurological state that makes that person find touch unpleasant, but they are used to being touched in a very controlling way, and so are reluctant to engage in tactile interactions because they are less trusting of those interactions. So it's not so much a tactile defensiveness as a lack of trust in the communication or interactive partner, learned through experience of that person or other kind of tactile interactions. The hand under hand is, again, active engagement by choice, because the deafblind person can move their hand away at any point, thereby withdrawing their consent to engage or keep going in that interaction. Because their hands are on top and not being held in place, they have that freedom to remove their hands at any point, should it become overwhelming or unpleasant, or they just need a moment to reset or have a think. If hand under hand is respected and the withdrawal of consent is respected, then trust is built. The deafblind person builds trust in their communication partner, understanding that that partner is not going to lead them or take them anywhere that they don't want to go. And that kind of trust is fundamental to deafblind interaction and learning. So an invitation via hand under hand can be re-offered to resume the process. So if the deafblind person withdraws their hand and withdraws consent, that doesn't necessarily mean it's the end of the interaction or the end of the activity. It might just be a need for a break or a think but the invitation can always be offered again, and that person the deafblind person has the choice to re-engage and continue. So what can hand under hand teach? So what can using this method to interact or explore, what can it teach? Well, it can give you a sense of orientation. So it can help you understand what's around you, or where you are, and how does things go? How do things work? It can build spatial awareness, so very much tied to orientation, spatial awareness of the tasks or surroundings. It can help the deafblind person understand different shapes of the hand and different hand shapes needed to do that task. It may encourage opening up of the hand. So if the hand is in its natural state, might be a clenched fist, hand under hand can encourage opening up the hands and opening up to explore and feel, but also varied movements and hand shapes as well. Hand under hand can teach the movements required to do a task. And the fact that it's happening from the deafblind person's perspective, the fact that it's happening on their partner's hand, this thing is happening on their partner's hands, implies that it then must be safe for deafblind person's hands. So if you let that happen to your hands, then this must be safe for my hands. And the deafblind person understands that their communication or interaction partner will never force them. They will only ever invite them. And it's safe to do this task. So what situations can hand under hand be used in? Well, you can use it to explore the surroundings, explore an object, explore a person. You can use it to learn a task, so the movements, the hand shapes, how you manipulate, or you find all the parts on something and how they operate. You can use it to just share an experience, to have something in common. And a shared experience is a very powerful experience because this also supports shared knowledge and memories of something. And it leads to gestural communication and other informal communication. So it opens a door to communication because you have a shared experience and you have a shared knowledge base. And hand under hand can also be used in formal or symbolic communication, such as hand under hand signing or modeling other forms of symbolic language. And just note there that the hand under hand signing, there is different terminology around the country, but I'll show you an example later. So you'll see that the person who is sending the message, their hands are underneath the person who is receiving the message. So now we'll have a quick a look at some different examples. So some of the examples have been captured in still images, and I have done this so that you get time to see the hand positions. Sometimes in videos, so much else is happening that your focus can be moved from the actual hand positions. So some of that is still images, so you can actually see here is the person providing and leading the exploring or leading the communication, here as the deafblind person hand on top and how they're engaged in that process. Okay. So here's our first example here, and I've called this Ready to Rock. So we have an adult and a deafblind child sitting on a big foam kind of rocking horse contraption. And the adult, the teacher, is going to show the deafblind child the movement involved. So now that you're positioned on the rocker, this is how you can hold on, and this is how we can make the rocker move. So that information is being transferred through the hands, the way it's placed on they're placed on the rocker, but also the movement and force that's going to be required to get the rocker moving and the kind of body movement that's going to be part of that. And the child can feel that through their hands. Incidentally, this child has been called tactile defensive, but you can see when hand under hand is offered and accepted, there isn't in this moment a lot of evidence of tactile defensiveness. So you know that touching hands, touching people is entirely possible. It just has to be in the right setup and it has to be offered hand under hand. So here we are, the adult is offering hand under hand, join me on the rocker. The child has accepted, the deafblind child has accepted the invitation, but is also in full control of that interaction. So at any point, if they want to disengage, they just have to lift their hands away from the adult as a signal to either I want to do something independently myself, or I want to explore this way, or I actually don't want you to continue this interaction or this activity. And from here, either can initiate or take a turn. The next example here, I love it because I've seen so many children's hands cleaned in a hand over hand way. And I've rarely seen it cleaning hands offered in a hand under hand way. So it's fabulous to see this example. So the washcloth and the hand are offered underneath the child's hands, and they have accepted that invitation to clean hands by grasping the hand and grasping the washcloth. But it also gives them a lot more time to notice and prepare for that activity. There is no grabbing of the child's hands, and there's no forceful manipulation from the adult, which is often the case in child hand washing. So through hand under hand methodology, the child's hands get clean and the child's trust is built in the process. In this next example, we have the adult demonstrating how to bang on a drum. So the adult does the demonstrating of banging on the drum, and the child's hands are resting over the top to feel the movement. But what's also beautiful about this is that the rest of the child's body is in contact with the drum. So as the hands beat on the drum, the child can feel the effect of that beating in their body, not just on their hands as well. So they might not have full access to the sound of the drum, but they can feel the effect of their beating through their body. The child accepted the invitation, showing curiosity, but still they have full control. Okay, and then this leads to the child being more confident and curious about trying that themselves. So even if the exact banging motion has not been replicated, there's sort of a little bit of a scratching motion on the drum here, maybe a little bit of a tap. But through that hand under hand interaction, they've learned this thing is safe. I know what to do, and I can try this by myself. Apologies for the slightly fuzzy image there. That's the best I could do to capture this segment, a slightly fuzzy image. So another way that we can use hand under hand is to show someone where something is. In this case, I've called this here are the handlebars. So there's a child who is learning to ride pedal a bike and sit on a bike and pedal. And rather than grabbing their hands and putting them on the handlebars and go, here, you hold on like this, instead that's done in a hand under hand way. And the invitation is, shall I show you where you put your hands? So the blue shirt, the arms of the blue shirt is offering that hand under hand. The deafblind child with the green sleeves has accepted that by placing their hands on the adult's hands, and those adults' hands move towards the handlebars. The child's hands follow, and then they actually grasp the handlebars. So there we have, I can show you where something is. Here's another example of hand under hand where there's actually a deafblind adult showing a deafblind child how they use their cane. This deafblind child is learning to use a cane themselves. And we have a deafblind model who's experienced with the cane going, this is how I use my cane. So the adult's hand, so we don't have a full hand under hand here. We have a sort of a slight overlap. So the child's hand is slightly on top of the adult's hand and slightly overlapping, but is also gripping the handle, some of the handle of the cane themselves. So they can feel the adult's hand holding the cane, and they can actually feel the cane in their own hand as well, just through that positioning. But the child is not being held by the adult at all, and so is free to take their hand away from the cane at any point that they choose to. And in our next next slide, we actually have a little video of them using the cane together. And I will play that again for you. So the two do a little bit of a navigation with the cane just for a few steps across the classroom together. And after that point, the child's attention diverts to something else and they do something else. But if the adult had been gripping the child's hands, then the child would be less able to go, right, now I've navigated across, I'm interested in where we are now, rather than keeping on going with the cane. So that hand under hand facilitates the child's where the child interest and attention is moving as well. In this next slide, we have a still image again, and I've called it Hi Ben, it's Mary here. And you can see how hand under hand is being used to present a personal signature. So that stretchy bracelet on the, so there's a person with a flowery dress or a flowery sleeve who is wearing a stretchy bracelet, and they're presenting that under the hand of the deafblind person who is wearing kind of like a brownie khaki kind of jumper. So the deafblind person has the opportunity to lay their hand over the hand of their communication partner and feel that identifying symbol. So they can't see the person's face, or they can't see the person's face well enough to recognize them. So this person is producing or presenting an object or a unique identifying tactile experience to go, this is who I am. But they're not making the person take it, they're offering it under their hand. And you can see here the person has accepted that invitation to explore that bracelet and find out who it is that's approached them. The next two slides are little excerpts from a video. So we have an adult guiding another adult, the adult with deaf blindness. And this person is returning, I guess, after a period of not a lot of involvement in their activities of daily living. They're being encouraged back into that space and starting to be responsible for and involved in things that happen in the house day to day. So this is steps to making soup, and it's being taught in what I would call a backward chaining method. So you actually learn the last step first, which might be scooping the soup out of the pot into a bowl to eat it. And then you learn each step, the step before that, which might be blending the soup. And then you might let the step before that, which might be stirring the soup and all the ingredients in the pot, and back by back. So in this video, they're actually learning to peel and chop, but this is at the very, very early stages of learning to peel and chop. And I would say the deafblind person is really just an observer and a tactile observer at this stage, and only happy to use just one hand to tentatively watch or tactilely observe what's going on. And you're feeling the movements of peeling and the movements of chopping. So they can feel the hand shape, they can feel the movements, but they're also getting a sense of the kind of force that's needed to do these activities. And then that video will be followed by a step in the process that this person has already learned to do independently. And they learn to do that through hand under hand, being taught that hand under hand, and reach the point where they can do that independently. So that will be the second video. A short little video there of this next step I know, and I apologize. There's been a black box that's appeared over my screen, and I have no idea why it's there or how to get rid of it. I'm just going to try one thing. No, don't know. Sorry. Okay, so there we have there I can feel the peeling, I can feel the chopping, and then that leads on to a step that I've already learned before that, which was putting all the chopped up vegetables or the chopped up sweet potato into the pot. And I learned that hand by hand, but now I can do that. I know where the pot is. I know to reach to the side of me and feel for each piece and put it into the pot. Right, and then our final example is a video again, and this is how hand under hand could be used in communication. And in this particular example, it's for signed tactile communication. So tactile sign, where the person who's sending the message is signing underneath the hands of the person with the deaf blindness. I wonder, can you remember me? Yes? Really? Oh, that's good. It's been so long. Okay, and I'll play that again. I wonder, can you remember me? Yes? Really? Oh, that's good. It's been so long. So that's the end of some of our examples there. And I thank everybody who's been involved in sharing those examples, collecting them for us, but also to the people with deaf blindness who have, participated in that filming and photography as well. So the next step I want to talk about is, so you've sort of seen how some examples of how it happens, and that's where it's all worked according to plan. But things don't always go according to plan, particularly when somebody's learning hand under hand. So hand under hand is a learned skill for both the communication partner or the leader, but also the person following. And particularly if somebody comes to this late in life or late in their experience or their development, it does take a little while to learn that somebody is leading you. And I have to rest on your hands, feel where they go, feel what they're doing, and follow. So that is a learned skill. But sometimes as communication partners or leaders in hand under hand, there is a common assumption that when the person with deaf blindness moves their hand away, that this means that's enough, this is finished, I don't want this, I don't like this. And I would encourage you to think about it in other ways before you reach that conclusion, because it actually might mean some other things. So what could it mean? It could mean, oh, what was that? What's happening? It could mean, I'm thinking about that. It could mean, oops, I lost control of my movement and I was trying to stay on your hands, but I couldn't quite manage it and my hands went off. Or I thought you were going to go one way and you went another and my hands came off yours. It might mean I'm not used to this, but it doesn't necessarily mean I don't like this or I want it to stop. And the way that you would test that assumption or those assumptions is to pause and keep observing the person with deaf blindness, to remain in contact with some part of your body, not necessarily your hands, but some other part of your body, so that even if the hand-to-hand contact has finished, they still know that you're there because they can still feel you with some other part of their body. And you might, if they have visual and or auditory access, you might let them know through those means as well that you're still there. And then invite them back into the interaction or activity by offering the hand under hand again. And if they accept, then you know it wasn't because I didn't want this to keep going. It might have been some of the other reasons or some other reason that nobody's thought of yet. So the only way to really know is to keep offering. And I think people with deaf blindness really do, if they really don't want it, they have ways of showing you that. So just with withdrawal of the hands doesn't necessarily mean I want this to be over. Okay, so as I mentioned, this is a learned process, and the learning can happen bit by bit. So as you do it and try it together, an important part of that learning process is reflecting, and sometimes just filming the hand-over-hand interaction and rewatching it and asking yourselves these questions. I'm just still trying to get rid of that black box, which I just can't do. Sorry. Here are some more example of people. There's no people with deaf blindness involved in these, but they're people who are learning to guide someone hand under hand and offer someone an experience in a hand under hand way. So they're still learning. So I thought I would look at a few examples and see what's going well and maybe how we could tweak that to make it even better. So in this video, we have the person with the black sleeve who is leading the hand under hand, and you can see that their hand sits under, or their arm sits under their partner who is wearing a striped top. So they're leading their partner into the bag. I like that the experience includes the bag on a table. So if you were ever to maybe, the deafblind person was going to go, I want to find that bag again. That bag was really interesting. They would have somewhere to look for it. So it's like it was on that table that was my desk or on the teacher's table or whatever table that was. There's some point in their environment where if they ever wanted to, they could go back and search for it there again. So often we'll see that maybe the experience is presented from the communication partner's hand, but only their hand with no other context. So if that deafblind person wanted to go back, they would be searching in the hand of the communication partner, but that's not where that thing is kept. It's not where it belongs. It's not where it comes from. So I think we have to be quite careful about the world concepts that we're building up when we do that, and that a bit more context about where this thing comes from is important to establish. So they've done that by having the bag on the table, and that's where the bag was kept. It was sitting on the table. The only other thing I would tweak here, if I think is, and I would ask you, how could we let the person with the striped sleeve, the person being led, know that their communication partner or their interaction partner is also holding the bag? So you can see the person with the black sleeve is holding the bag on one side, and the person being led is holding the bag on the other side. So my suggestion is that the person leading could move their holding the bag hand closer to the person being led or the person with deaf blindness, so that those hands are in contact with each other. They don't necessarily have to be hand under hand. They could be, but they could certainly be next to each other so that that person being led knows, you are holding the bag too, because I can feel you holding the bag. So you hold the bag like this and our hand goes into the bag like that. Our next example is a slightly different orientation. So the person with green sleeves is leading and offering hand under hand to the person with black sleeves. And by the position of the hands, you can tell that that invitation has been accepted and that person is ready to go and follow. So the person with green sleeves can proceed with that two-handed exploration. So both hands are there. And they can proceed in the exploration of the bag, which is sitting on the deafblind person's lap. And that person is free to follow or free to remove their hands if they need to. What I also like about this example is the knee-to-knee position of each of the people. So they're in contact with their hands, but their knees are also in contact. So should their hand contact break, the person with their blindness still knows the other person is there. They haven't vanished. They haven't got up and left. They're still there because I can feel you there with my knees. Doesn't have to be knees, can be another body part. That's what I like about this example. In this one, I'm going to ask you to have a think about that. So unfortunately, the black box has obliterated part of the photo, but we've got a person in grey jeans who is being led and their two hands are available, and a person with blue jeans who is leading hand under hand. So their hand is definitely under the other person's hand, but there's a few things I think we could tweak here. So this is a two-handed activity. It's really hard to get something out of a bag only using one hand. So the other person's hand could be invited hand under hand to reach into the bag or find the bag and reach into it. This doesn't have to be a one-handed activity. And in fact, making it so makes it really, really awkward. It also gives the person with deaf blindness the impression that objects come to you by being in my hand and floating towards you. So the source of an object is my hand. It's not a cupboard, it's not a table, it's not a box, it's not a bag. it's my hand, which is kind of a false impression of the world. So getting the other person's hand involved in that activity gives them a bit more context and a bit more real world understanding about the situation. You'll notice that the leading hand is actually face up and grasping the person's hand who is following. But a true hand under hand, the leader's hand would be flipped so that the deafblind person's hand rests on the back of the hand that it's following. So there's no temptation to grip or control, and there's always that invitation status is maintained. If the person leading flips the hand the other way, the instinct is to any time that doesn't go as they've planned is to grip the deafblind person's hand and kind of start controlling it. So again, flipping the hand over. So deafblind person's palm to the back of the person, the hand is a safer and more inviting hand orientation. I mentioned there a little bit more context about where the object has come would build more real life and real world knowledge rather than a false world knowledge. And that single hand is their only point of contact. So if that is broken, then the person with deafblindness has absolutely no way of knowing where that other person is or gone, or whether they're still there, or whether they're facing them or by their side or anything. So a little bit more body-to-body contact would help with the person-to-person kind of orientation. So the reflection process, you can ask yourself anything you want, but I've put down a few questions to help you think about it. So the person who is leading, so the person whose hands are under, let's just say start describing your experience. Did you ask yourself, did you invite or did you control? Were you ever tempted during the interaction to take control? Were your hands always under? So watching people learn to do this, if they don't watch their hands, they will absolutely claim that their hands are under the person's hands that they're leading. And then when they look and I say, so where is your hand under or over? They'll go, oh, I thought it was under, but somehow I've moved it above and I've actually taken that person's hand and I'm actually gripping it. So it's always good to actually see it to check whether your perception is actually what is happening. And what did your partner do? What did you do if your partner didn't follow you? So you were inviting and you were leading, but what did you do if they didn't follow? And if you were following in that interaction or that practice, how did it feel to you? Were you free to follow as you wished to? Did you ever feel like you were being controlled? And what worked well for you? And now, if you would like to get a little bit more information about hand under hand and see some more examples, there I've included 3 resources that will help you learn more about hand under hand interactions. So the first one is from the National Centre in Deafblindness. That's an American site, and the URL there is educational practices and then hand under hand. And I've just provided an image from the website, which will help you know you found the right place, which is 2 sets of hands exploring a teddy bear in a hand under hand way. The other one is a video that's been made, a YouTube video that's been made by the Idaho Children and Youth with Deaf Blindness. And that is a hand-under-hand video where they talk a little bit of information, but lots of video examples there as well. And you can see in the image that somebody is, the adult is showing the deafblind child how to roll a ball of dough using hand-under-hand methodology. And if you're interested in learning more about hand under hand, but also some alternative hand positions. So I've said that, you know, hand under hand isn't the only way to teach a deafblind person something or show them something. There are other hand positions, and this goes through some alternatives as well. And that can be found on the Deafblind International website. Under news and webinar on tactile communication and different hand positions. So that brings us to the end of the content. I'm now going to invite the audience to ask questions.